It is Ross the Boss time, thanks to Jim Beam. And Ross, it's getting closer. Eddie's touched on it a few times. It is not long to go. We're all pretty excited. We're going to take a look at some of the big clashes from round two, and there's just 16 days to go when the Cats take on Hawthorn, and it's down at GMHBA where they have not played since way back in 2006. Here's some of the highlights, Ross. Only Gary Ablett Jr. played in this game at Geelong those 10 or 14 years ago.
Well, he is a marvel, isn't he? And it's one of the great rivalries, but we're going to have a look. The Hawks have been drawn to go down there. So we're going to have a look at the challenges of that particular stadium and playing the Cats.
And it's great talking to you, Ross, because you've won an amazing final down there. You've also been belted down there. So talk us through the continuing.
Well, I've been on both ends of the spectrum. They did kick 23 in a row down there. That could have been the end of it all for me. But really, that's what they're up against. The percentages tell you they're winning really 8.5 out of every 10, 41-7, and they're a 3-goal better team. Particularly, they defend the ground incredibly well down there. And we'll look at the reasons why for that. So they're an 18-point-better team at home, hence the numbers.
And Ross, the ground dimension, so that is the MCG, the green surface there. But talk us through why it's so hard to play down at Geelong.
Well, it's the narrowest ground in Australia. It's 116 metres wide. So on either side, narrow in the MCG. Overall, it's 22 metres. They lose in width when they go down there, the Hawks, and it's 9 metres longer than the MCG. So that represents a unique challenge. WA teams, in particular, Subiaco was 175 long and 122. So we went down there. It was relatively normal. But for the Hawks, it's going to be different. And then have a look at these figures. The Cats at home get comfortable and confident, and they're the champion data rankings points. And players that have played a minimum of 10 games, they have 14 players that outperform their league average elsewhere.
They train there every day. They're comfortable. It's like a second home, isn't it?
Yeah, some things you can't measure, but it's the comfortability, it's the routine, and it's the home crowd. Now, look, that's an advantage for Hawthorn. That's gone. But those guys grow in confidence and performance down there for whatever reason.
OK, Ross, we've got some vision. What do the Hawks need to do to win down there in 16 days' time?
Well, over their dynasty, the Hawks, they've used the width of the ground and the length of the ground better than anyone else in the competition. They're renowned for their exquisite ball use, and they make teams defend them. So they use every inch of the MCG and then they go in deep. Right, so that's the challenge. They're going to... But when they go down there is no width. So they're going to have to become really good at using the length.
And I love this vision you've got from Geelong, how they squeeze teams, Ross. So this was a game against Carlton last year. You watch Paddy Cripps. He's trying to find a target, but they're squeezing.
So if you stop it there is no width, but there's plenty of length. Now, if you look at Carlton, a less experienced team and a developing team, if we just stop it, if we stop the vision, there's 2 free players. If those players use the 170 metres and lengthen out, their opponents will have to make a decision. Do I defend the space or do I go back? They'll go back, and all of a sudden you've got 2 free players. But if you don't work the length, you go to the contest and they will come back like this really quickly to their forward line and score. So Hawthorn will go to school. They'll have to minimise their width, philosophy, and really extend. A team like Richmond, who don't rely on width, will be able to penetrate and go through.
When you were with Fremantle, did you go down and train the day before and walk around the Oval just to get a feel for it?
No, not at all. No. We just went with a fierce attitude. And what I'd like to say is that length is really important if you get your fundamentals right. So which is competing fiercely, pressuring, and then the technicalities come in. So it's going to be an attitude first, all in, really take it on down there. And the start's critical. They need to get off to a good start to get Geelong a little bit of self-doubt creeping.
And lastly, Ross, who are the keys for both clubs that you would put time into?
Yeah, really simply, if you're the Hawks, and they've done this really well, Dangerfield and Hawkins, the Hawks have won the last 2 out of 3, and they've really controlled them and minimised the amount of goals they kicked. The time that Geelong got up, Hawkins and Dangerfield kicked 3 or 4 between them. So, and the other thing for the Hawks, Stewart rolling off and intercepting, going to pattern and then starting their counter. And he'll also drop off and be that loose man in defence. They're going to have to make him accountable. So they do that really well, the Hawks, typically. But I think if you're Geelong, what you've got to look at, Wingard's new. I did round 1. He was almost best on the ground. He's electric, midfield. The ground set up for him, small crumbing forward. He could turn it on, kick 5 or 6. So I think a lot of planning in him. Isaac Smith, the best runner in the AFL virtually. If they don't control his run. And then Sicily rolling off to help Frawley on Hawkins, which clearly he's been able to do. So if they don't make him accountable, I think the Hawks can get up.
Now, Ross, can I ask you, mate, when you went down there in that final, What did you say to your players? Did you say, if we get them early, shut the crowd up, and we won't be a crowd, so you don't have to worry about that. Get them early, that you put the bit of doubt in their minds.
Take them to deep water early and drown them. Send the crowd home. That was the Gordon Tallis, Brisbane Broncos state of origin. Take them down to go hard early. Although they started really well. So really, sometimes science works us out, and it's a real attitude and war of attrition.
So is it Hawthorn going in with a devil may care attitude, and Geelong have got the pressure because they've got the fortress, but now they've got a big team coming down there?
No, I like the Lee Matthews. If it bleeds, we can kill it. They'll be saying, gee, Fremantle went down here. Well, they can do it, we can do it.